The trouble we all have with BRs is unless you have a full squad of reliable mates, you're going to have to face the challenge of dealing with other people. This means having to deal with the most random and varied types of gamers as possible. While you will come across many fantastic teammates practicing the likes of wholesome sportsmanship, the ones you will remember are the bad eggs, who will tilt their team and even themselves at the expense of the others. Being the type of player on this list will be detrimental to your own progress, as well as causing negative experiences for others in-game, with the exception of one which is a bit more controversial and open to debate. So let me know what you think in the comments. Show this video to that one mate that just doesn't get it. And if that's you watching right now, how you doing, mate? Don't take it personally, I'm sure they didn't mean it. Don't be the lone wolf who drops miles away from your team. As a team of 3, you put yourself and others at a huge disadvantage from the get-go. I can't really get my head around why people do this, because they end up joining back with the team after a while, but more often than not, someone gets jumped with no full squad backup or way out. It's just a waste of time. Either go play a solo game if that's what you prefer, or tell us who hurt you. But when you do drop together, don't be the glutton for all things loot. This means don't be the guy that drops firstly right next to your jump master, and second, hoovering up everything next to them. Loot is well distributed, and although you may be able to get to items quicker than them, you ideally want everyone on the team to have a reasonable loadout at the start. If you do this, you might start the commonly seen passive-aggressive war with each other, racing and competing for the same bins and floor loot, and therefore lowering the team's loot efficiency. In addition to this, don't be that guy who loots your teammate's death box when they'll clearly be able to get back to it shortly. The loadout and items they have are most likely well suited to their playstyle. So unless you specifically needed something urgently, meaning it would be reasonable to take some of their resources, it's ultimately best to get them back into the game quicker, as they'll already be familiar with what they had. Next, if you're in a duo, there's a high chance you're in Discord already with each other, an ideal way to play and chat with your mates. But don't let that be to the detriment of your team. Don't be the duo who ghosts your third teammate, standing around silently hoarding loot and sharing only with each other, and not communicating rotation decisions or even macro decisions within a fight. It doesn't mean you necessarily have to talk to them, but at least pinging that you plan to go over here or that you are falling back from a losing gunfight will help that third person follow suit without being left behind all the time, which is beneficial to you and your duo too. Now the next one is the most controversial one. Don't be the guy who takes dibs too seriously. In any of these types of games, people apply logical decision making to sharing loot, and using the ping system to highlight your intention to pick something up is a great feature to communicate effectively with your team. But in my opinion, it should not mean that you're entitled to anything you're able to dibs first, while threatening to AFK and tilting your team if you don't get your way. Using the term dibs so freely in any real-life scenario is not used in such an absolute nature, and serves primarily to announce your intentions to claim ownership over something. Now, does this mean you should ignore your teammates doing it? No. If a teammate uses dibs, it's in your interest for every one of you to loot what you need, and therefore getting what they want is of benefit to the whole team. But going back to logical decision making, if you open a canister, your teammate next to you quickly pings an item, and the third from miles away instantly decides to dibs, it shouldn't be assumed that they are entitled to it, and lock me out of picking up the valuable item right next to me. For it might again cause more passive-aggressive habits in players to ready their trigger finger to dibs everything they see, therefore disrupting the natural ebb and flow of passing through POIs and looting them dry in a quick and efficient manner. Next up, don't be the guy who doesn't communicate their solo player mentality to the team. Playing in whatever way you believe is best for the team should be encouraged, but there are two opposite types of players who often play their own way to the detriment of themselves in the long run. That is when you solo engage in a scenario that was probably reasonable to push, but without either pinging or talking to your teammates about your intentions. This will often lead that player to get mad that no one ever follows up, when the team might have if they had known and had got themselves in a better position to do so. On the flip side, the other type of player is the one who loves to sit at long range and tag enemies from afar. A great approach in many scenarios. But in a game with teams of 3 and 2 other players who aren't fully committed to sitting back and sniping, not being willing to follow up on anything without communicating this to your team will bait them into 2v3s where you're in no position to respond effectively. Particularly in a game like Apex where falling back and healing is so prevalent, and therefore often sitting back too much doesn't achieve very much. And finally, do not be the one who flames your teammates. Period. Everyone that plays competitive games knows that it brings out the demon inside that wants your teammates to pay for being so stupid at times. The simple fact is that flaming your team only serves to tilt them and lower everyone's chances of doing better. If you must say something, do it with care and compassion, and you may just find that they respond well to it and you can move on. The second point on this is you aren't a perfect player yourself. No one is. And therefore, there will have been plenty of instances in that same fight where you were at fault or could have done better to improve the situation. Channel that energy instead into self-reflection for personal improvement, because at the end of the day, the only person that will be in your next game and every game after that is you. These are all the behaviours of players that I have experienced many times, and even been that guy myself occasionally. But breaking free of solo play mentality in group play and toxic behaviours will not only improve the experience for everyone, but help you climb quicker. Tilting yourself can put you on a bad run for an entire session, and you will only have yourself to blame. So chin up and take this as an opportunity to work on your character and not just your aim. Thanks for watching my list of players you don't want to be if you wish to improve and climb. If you agree, let me know why and maybe click the like. If not, I'd love to hear your reasons why too. Ultimately, try to play primarily for the enjoyment of playing. So if it gets too much, cool off, touch grass, and when you play to win.
HP, dude. I'm trying to shoot them. I was shooting them underneath the thing.